If you're passionate about the subject you want to study and that really comes through in your motivation, that will definitely increase your chances of getting in.
For a lot of students, the admission and application process can be a bit stressful. Certainly when you're applying to universities around the world, you might have several choices and so forth. Can you tell me maybe how you prepared to apply to the university, how that admissions process went for you with your program? I know it's been some time, but at least for Peter and Carmen, do you remember going through that process?
Yeah, so my counselor in Japan made us do things very early. So by, I think, was it December, I sent out all my applications, and also for Leiden University. And Leiden University, was the first one to answer. So that was actually pretty nice. But then I had universities in the UK as well, in France. That was my backup plan. It was very smooth. Like, from what I got from Leiden University, it was very clear what the steps I had to take and where I was at on my application. With the online system, it's just very easy. Yeah.
Your process might have been slightly different depending on when you applied as well.
Yeah, it was definitely not so smooth sailing because there's a lot of barriers that you need to jump over to get to study psychology. For example, I had to take an exam. It's definitely nerve-wracking as a student because I obviously applied to different universities as well, but I really wanted to come study here. And it takes a very long time to get your results for the exam. But I don't have any complaints about that really either because all of the material that I needed to study for the exam was carefully laid out. They said, this is what you study, the exam is going to consist of this, and this is what you have to do if you want to get in. And then in the end, I had the conditional offer the whole time until I sent them my documents and my diploma, and then it was totally fine.
So I think it also highlights the differences in the sense that we have 14 English taught programs and there are different admissions processes for some of those particular programs. So sometimes it's fairly straightforward. Sometimes you have to do sort of extra steps for selection and so forth. So I think it's important for students to know that they have to look at those instructions. They have to see what's required, what those deadlines are, and what to expect as they go through. And then they may have a similar experience to you guys, but if they haven't looked and they don't know what to expect, it can be much more challenging. Can you think of other tips?
Just make sure your motivation is to the point. I think that's always something that you can definitely impress with, even if your grades aren't just all straight A's. If you have a good reason you want to come here and you feel like it would really add to your life, then I think the motivation letter really shouldn't be neglected. I feel like it often is, like, people focus more on the achievements that you have on paper, but if you're passionate about the subject you want to study and that really comes through in your motivation, that will definitely increase your chances of getting in.
Yeah, for the programs that certainly require that, I think it's also important for you guys to think about that piece. So for students to think about their motivation, even if it's not required for the admissions process, just to make sure it's the right match. Overall. So I think it's a very helpful thing. So yes, make sure your motivation is in check.
Yeah, and for some programs, at least for security studies, there's matching procedures where you have a sample course of 8 hours. That takes about 8 hours of readings and questions, and that's very insightful. Some students actually skip and just press because it doesn't affect your admission. But I recommend really to do that because it gives you really like a good insight on what the course is and what you can expect.